The Dauntless. When it happens all at once. Chaos leading into chaos and damage leading to damage. The flashes of fire and plasma bring about more of their kind, spreading like a wildfire through a drought-inflicted forest. Screams of fury spread as an entire level devolves into chaos. Moriarty clucks his tongue just a touch. Not entirely unexpected, but earlier than I assumed. Screams fill the night as he conceals himself and observes. Sure, his informants and contacts are very useful, but observing things firsthand brings the least disrupted and corrupted information possible. When he first arrived in this place, the situation had ossified. It was solid and unmoving. It had taken some weeks. It had taken thefts, murder, bribery, and more. But it was all moving now. The situation was fluid enough for him to properly insert himself into it. Screams and laser blasts fill the air as the area descends into a free-for-all. The hard truce has been shattered by his actions as the gang scream for death and revenge. Revenge against whom? Revenge against everyone. All the old grudges are out and being vented on. Death is in the streets and bodies are piling up. The smaller gangs are already dying off by the dozens, which means the buffers between the big gangs are going away to leave the larger ones at each other's throats. He quickly moves from building to building, cloaked by axiom, out of the line of fire and simply observing. He's looking for some key actors. Not only will this give him the chaos he needs to properly and fully move the game board, but a chance to carve himself a reputation tonight. One that can be used to lever the reactions of others. Here, possibly one of the more important places, the large gang, the under-tier sisters, vicious, protective, and they have a strange sense of morality. They think of themselves as some noble sisterhood in some terrible condition. The slaughter they're committing is a point against that, a large one. That they've never done anything to actually help or even solidify anything unless it was a direct and overt benefit to them was another mark against them. He watches and mentally checks off a few contenders. He sees the gang's leader. He sees one of the main enforcers throwing plasma grenades like candy, and he sees the woman he's truly interested in. The enforcers are mostly brutes, with the highest tier one being a woman dragged back into criminal life after a failed attempt to go legitimate. That's the one he has to be careful around. She's smarter than the rest and, to be honest, too good for the gang. He smiles as he watches it happen. There's a reason he only considered the leader a leader. In the chaos, in the confusion, in the danger and threat. One of the more ambitious women in the gang pulls out a tiny hidden plasma pistol, and she grabs the leader by the shoulder, and as she turns, she faces the plasma pistol to the face and it goes off. Then the pistol is pocketed and the rank climber screams as she cradles the body of her boss in her arms. The gang roars in a fury, and the fighting grows even more vicious. Those cunts killed the GV, shot her in the head. They need to pay. We're pushing out and taking down the all-ins. They fucked with us the last time. The newly appointed boss of the gang roars out as Moriarty grins under his cloak. It was such a good idea to do things via undaunted operating procedures. He had that lovely bit of treachery and blackmail recorded in high definition. The day was so wonderfully profitable, and it was just getting started. Things had gone to shit the instant they left the safe house. Mostly in that the first thing that happened when they got clear was their safe house getting hit with something. Something that leveled the building and caked the entire squad with dust and bits of rubble. No injuries, simulated or real, are reported, but that was a morale crusher. Come on! It's not like we were going back in there. We got the gear. We got the goal. We got all we need. Let's go! Squad Sergeant Davies roars out in response as he leads the way in. The troops fall in line behind him. All right, remember, get civilians out safe and keep ourselves alive. Beyond that, this is a waiting game, so priority one is survive. Sir, I scanned the maps. We're heading into gang territory, the all-ins. Recruit Lagrange states. Good. We'll use this to take out some of our enemies while we take their supplies and see if we can't rescue a few civilians in the process, Davies calls as he leads them. Lagrange, I need directions. We need an infiltration point on the opposite side of the chaos. Sir? That takes around the long way. Doesn't matter. They're going to be staring right at the fighting, and if we get in behind them, then it's worth the extra effort, he replies. Take the next right, Sergeant, Lagrange calls out, and he takes the right and leads his troops in. Then they come across the first real challenge, bodies. Dead bodies all over and chaos all around. Check the bodies. I don't care if they're wearing colors or not. If anyone's still alive, they're getting evacuated. I want 3 men on guard at each side of this alleyway and 3 in the center looking up in case of attacks from the buildings. This leaves at least 1 person to check each body. We've got a breather here, one of his squad calls out. Stabilize them, Davies calls to them, somewhat pissed he even has to give the order. Gang colors, the recruit replies, and Davies pauses for a moment. Stabilize them anyways. If she has no weapons and is injured in this area, then she's as good as a civilian anyways. He returns and he can see the recruits put their basic first aid training to use. Contacts! A guarding recruit shouts and open fire. The fools of the under-tier sisters are pushing deep into All-In territory. Too deeply. They don't know it, but they're getting surrounded. Oh, never mind. It looks like Miss Tried to Go Legit has figured out the danger and is setting up a rear guard. Not bad. Moriarty vaguely muses how much of a reward, if he does get a reward, for recruiting that woman for the Undaunted. She certainly seems to have the knack for things on the violent scale. Goddess, damn it. 8 years and nothing changed. Miss Competent curses loud enough for Moriarty to hear, and he smirks under his cloak. Then her head snaps up and he throws himself away from a laser blast. But to his bad luck, there was a gas unbalance near him and the thermal bloom singes his fur and clothing. I knew it! He mutters in his throat even as the woman leaps up. He's not sure what this species is called. He's seen them before but hasn't really looked up what they are. She resembles a Nagasha that decided to forego hair, grow a hood, and have a pair of legs rather than a long tail. Not that she doesn't have a long, dexterous tail, but she's much more lithe than powerful. I knew it, she exclaims. You've been ghosting all over the place, always out of corners, some distortion or shadow. Of course I am, he replies, dropping the cloak and brushing at his singed fur. This place is dangerous after all. We have gangsters with lasers and plasma, war in the streets, death in the air. I need to get some exercise in or I'll go mad and I find myself in the middle of a battle. The innocent act hits her like a punch to the gut. Of course it does. He's a male. Males are given the benefit of the doubt and he's visibly unarmed. Not that he's actually unarmed, but that's beside the point. She thinks he's unarmed and helpless. Wait, you're too calm. Of course I am. I'm in no danger from a good woman. I've seen what's happened to you. Dragged back into this pit after escaping. I was so sorry to see such a thing happen to a good woman. He says, emphasizing the title he's using to control her. After all, a good woman doesn't hit a man, and the fact that the bloom from her laser clearly hit him is going to ding her morality at least a little. Whatever she's about to say is cut off by a scream from one of her girls. He makes a decision. This is a perfect setup of ingredients. Go. Keep your friends safe. I'll keep my head down and cloaked. Not everyone has eyes as sharp as yours. He both assures and compliments the woman before he pulls the axiom around himself and he fades out of casual sight. You need to get out of here. The whole level is going to hell. Aw, she's being gallant. How sweet. Unfortunately, this is a place and time where Captain Saves a Hoe gets taken advantage of. No, not after how hard I've worked to help the people here, he says before teleporting away. With that, as his parting words, she's going to be convinced he's a goody two-hooves. which means there's all sorts of fun tunes he can get her dancing to. Everything is proceeding apace, even with the surprises. The first burst of plasma shots are dodged as the relatively slow projectiles are avoided. Everyone's at the top of their game and at full attention. The initial response burst of fire had chased the gangsters into cover. "Hose them down!" one of the girls calls across the street. "Blast them out! Grenades!" Davies calls, and tiny spheres go flying at the enemies who scramble out of the cover they took, right into a hail of bullets. "Targets down! What do we do with the injured, sir?" "Bring them with us. Moving them is bad, but leaving them in an active war zone is worse. We're going to hit the nearest gang's central fortress, take it, fortify it, and use it as both a fort and a medical hall. If we want to save people, we need some place to put them all." Davies orders. "Any other survivors but the one?" "Sir." "No, sir," the men call out. "Good. We're moving. LaGrange. Directions. Forward. Second left and then the first right," LaGrange answers. "Then we're moving. I want 6 men on the rear and another 6 looking up in case. I want all ambushes to be countered as hard as possible." Davies orders and they all start to move. There's only a quick pause to check for any salvageable weapons, but too much boom means no. The plasma munitions were wrecked beyond what a basic shake and a few curses can fix. The first turn is clear and so is the second, but before they can reach the third, someone knocks down part of the building and they're forced to scatter to avoid a withering hail of laser fire. "Open fire," Davies commands, and the storm of return fire slams into the woman and causes some damage on the surrounding mortar and stonework. The woman falls out with a scream and lands on the ground stone dead. Her laser rifle, on the other hand, it's intact. LaGrange takes control of it and shows off that he has a modular link on his shoulders and hooks it in upside down to form a hands-free weapon. The green-painted building is the one we want. If there's munition stores or prisoners, it's there. "Then let's go," Davies orders. The drama with the Undertier sisters and the all-ins behind him. Moriarty casually picks his way through things in order to see the next little touch of drama. He's a little late on this one. Several of the small buffer gangs are clearly wiped out, and there's a 3-way free-for-all with the next gangs. A chunk of masonry soars through the air and he steps out of its path. He then steps back and follows the arc with his eyes. He almost winces as he sees the chunk of concrete and mortar slam into the ground. It's mostly dodged, but it shatters so hard that a few women get their ankles snapped. Yes, concrete shrapnel. Not fun, now. There are a few weak links here as well. He just needs to wait for the next opportunity. He also crouches down to let the next chunk of concrete sail clean over his head as he continues to observe.